Hello everybody. Today we are going to see the further topic in component and hardware of manufacturing automation subject. In this, the next topic talks about the servo mechanism, ball and screw and the belt driven linear actuators, linkage and coupling, clutches and brakes. And then after that, the another topic is structure and frame. Now, let us start with the servo mechanism. What the meaning of servo mechanism and why it is called, or what is the purpose of servo mechanism and where it is used. What is the use of that servo mechanism? So, let us go further. Now, first thing is the definition. A servo mechanism is a combination of mechanical and control hardware that uses feedback to affect the control of a system. Now, what is the meaning of this one? It is a, you can say that combination of mechanical and the control hardware. Now, in this servo mechanism, there is a mechanical component and there is a hardware, there is a controller. And with this thing, the continuous feedback will be going to the controller, and from the input, that feedback and the input is combined and the controller process that input, and then it is after that it is connected to the motor or actuator, and finally the process happens. Now the feedback, here it is already written, the feedback is in the form of an error or the difference between the sense parameter and its desired value. Suppose the process parameter, or you can say that sense parameter, is the load. If load is whatever the desired load we want or the force we want to act on a surface or any object, then that force will be detected by the transducer, and the input force and the output will be compared and will be combined, and then controller will give the actual or you can say that actual difference. It will calculate the actual difference, and finally the data goes to the motor or actuator. And with this closed loop control, or you can say that feedback control mechanism works. The same thing happens here. In servo mechanism generally operate on the principle of negative feedback, where the error is subtracted from the output. So that we have already covered what is the meaning of feedback and why it is called as the negative feedback, because it is subtracted from the output. Now, in this diagram, the servo system diagram, it is very much clear, which I was mentioning earlier, that what is the meaning of this one. Now here you can see that first thing is the input. The input goes to the controller. If this you can ignore for right now, the controller, and from that controller there is the decision maker, and directly it is connected to the actuator and then process. So here you can see that process is a load. This load gives this load is detected by the transducer, and this transducer gives the feedback to that input device, and finally that feedback, or you can say that it is a negative feedback, as you have seen earlier. It is a negative feedback where the error is subtracted from the output. So here the error is subtracted, and finally the decision, or you can say that whatever that difference is there, it goes to that actuator, and this servo system works in that principle. Now, an example of servo system that does not involve a servo motor is a hydraulic actuator that has its speed and the position controlled by the spool valve using feedback from an externally mounted analog position sensor. Right, correct. Now, with this, generally here you can see it has already we have described in the PID control system what is the meaning of servo motor. However, it is important to mention that servo mechanisms control not only position, speed and torque, but may control variables such as temperature, pressure or anything measurable. So with this example, it becomes clear. Here it is just written, if there is no motor, it can be the hydraulic actuator, that is obvious. And it is controlled by a spool valve using feedback from the externally mounted analog position sensor. So this is about that servo system in a brief. Anyhow, we have seen or here in the previous diagram, it gives the layout of a servo system. So this is the brief idea about the servo system, and you have seen already about that servo mechanism. Now next topic is which I have mentioned earlier in the starting itself. The next topic is ball screw and the belt driven linear actuator. So first thing is, what is the meaning of ball screw? A ball screw is a mechanical linear actuator that translates rotary motion to the linear motion with little friction. That you are aware. A threaded shaft provides a spiral raceway for ball bearing which act as a precision screw. The ball assembly act as a nut while the threaded shaft act as a screw, and they are made to close tolerance and are therefore suitable for use in a situation where high precision is necessary. And in the further slide you will be seeing the diagram how it works. So first let us see, anyhow you can see here. So this is the ball screw, and here these are the screw, and that you can say that this ball rotates on that screw. The pitch of a ball screw determines the potential linear speed of a linear actuator as well as its ability to hold a load against the force of gravity. This type of screw sometime you will be using in the a linear actuator, or you can say that sometime this type of ball screw is also used along with this stepper motor also. Now here you can see the higher pitch, you know that difference between the two peaks or the two depths, means here you can see these two peaks, the difference of these two or the measurement between these two midpoint of these two is called a pitch. If the pitch is high, the movement will be faster. If pitch is low, the movement will be finer or slower, or you can say the movement is more precise. The same thing is here written. The higher pitch means more turn per inch, provide more precision. Higher pitch means that this distance is lesser. It means the pitch is higher. Right? It does not mean the distance, but these two distance there are more thread. To cover a small distance you may have to rotate many times. So that is called as the higher pitch. Higher pitch means more turn per inch, provides more precision and a greater ability to stop a vertical load from turning the screw. But it requires a higher motor speed to move at the same rate as a lower pitch screw. It is obvious. So here you can see that here it is a nut ball screw, and you can say that it is a ball screw and a nut with a screw pitch. So this one is the screw pitch. Now another is belt driven linear actuator. So here that belt driven linear actuator uses a toothed belt and a gear to move a carriage attached to the belt. So here you can see that diagram. So here this one is called as the belt, and this arrangement works in the this total arrangement is called as the actuator. So here you can see the theory part. The belt driven linear actuator uses a toothed belt and a gear to move a carriage attached to the belt. So here you can see this one is the carriage which is attached to this belt. As the belts move, the carriage also moves. And here it is a toothed belt, that's why this drive is a positive drive. There will not be any slip between the belt and this, you can say that pulley or the shaft. The linear speed of a belt driven actuator is typically faster than that of a ball screw, but can be less rugged and precise. Here the linear movement is faster. Here the linear movement is faster compared to this ball screw. Here the linear movement of this one is slower, but here since it is a belt, the linear movement is faster. Belt driven actuators are more likely to slip with a heavy load. Toothed belt can even be damaged if the load is beyond the rating of the actuator, as teeth can be stripped off the belt. Here you can see that these teeth are attached to the belt. If the load is more, this teeth can be separated from the belt. Or if the speed is very fast, in that case, or the load is more, the teeth of this belt can be separated from this belt itself. So this is the main disadvantage of belt-driven actuator. Here again I'll read that belt-driven actuator are more likely to slip with a heavy load. Toothed belt can even be more damaged if the load is beyond the rating of the actuator, as teeth can be stripped off the belt. So this is belt-driven actuator. Now the next topic is the linkage and the coupling. And as you know, link means it is a joining, and the coupling is again that joining. So here you can see the difference. A linkage is a combination of rigid element and hinges or joint that constrain the element. You may have heard about that 4-bar link mechanism, and there is another very popular mechanism is called as the pantograph. So this way the linkage can be used to multiply or translate force or motion between the mechanism or component. So this way the linkage works. Now example of linkage are the scissor lift and the 4-bar linkage. This is the most common example of linkage. Sorry. Now here the simplest linkage is lever. By pinning a point on the length of the lever to a fixed location, the lever pivots around the point that is called as the fulcrum. As you know, the lever is the simplest type of the linkage. And there is a popular saying that if you have the lever, you can say that you can rotate the earth also. If you have the lever and a pinning point, you can even rotate the earth also. So that is the, you can say that that depends upon the how you are pinning and how much is the other length of the arm of the lever. And with the small force, you can rotate the larger force. That is the more, you can say that simple mechanism is the lever. And another is the most common, or we can say that most popular, is the 4-bar linkage. It's a group of 4 joints and 4 bars that allows point on the linkage to move in a constant or the restrained way when one or two of the joints are fixed in a location. So this is the another common type of linkage. Now in the next slide you'll be seeing the diagram of 4-bar linkage. Here you can see this is the fixed position and these are the joints, and these all called as the link. So it is 1, 2, 3 and 4. It is a 4-bar link. Now how it is attached? Here you can see if you are tracing this letter, here it is written that letter A. If you are tracing this letter, automatically this smaller, the same type of letter is traced here. Or if you are tracing this one, automatically the enlarged version of that or enlarged portion of or the space is created by the, and the shape and the size will be exactly same. The ratio will be different. And this 4-bar linkage is what you have studied already, is called as the pantograph. And this is the most common type of linkage or 4-bar linkage which can be used in automation industries also. Now the next thing comes out to be the coupling. Now in this coupling, the coupling connects two soft or the rotating member together. A coupling can be rigid or flexible. You have heard about coupling, like you can say the universal coupling is the very common type, and which is used to transmit the power from the engine to the rear wheel of automobile. Generally in the larger automobile or the heavier automobile, there is a universal shaft and universal coupling, and from the engine to the rear wheel, that coupling is used. So that universal coupling, you can say it is a flexible. Now rigid coupling has the advantage of keeping shaft precisely aligned and holding the end very securely. Then it becomes the rigid coupling. The flexible coupling allow for the misalignment and tend to dampen the vibration. From engine there is a vibration, or from the rear wheel there is a vibration. This flexible coupling will allow the damping and misalignment also, so that the engine vibration will not go to that rear wheel vibration. Similarly, it is a vice versa. The rear vibration will not come to that engine vibration. So this is one thing. Now a common type of mechanism that uses a toggle linkage is the clamp. That is another thing. It's that toggle link. Here you can see that sometime this toggle mechanism or clamp also it is called as, it is a pneumatically driven clamp, or a toggle mechanism, a type of 4-bar linkage that folds and locks at a certain position. Some pneumatically driven that clamp perform a rotate and lower movement that is partially cam based, but a manual toggle clamp uses a 4-bar linkage to produce a high clamping force. So you'll be seeing in the next slide that what is the toggle clamp. So here you can see it is a toggle clamp. Here again, this is one link, the second link, the third link, and the fourth one. Now with this, it is a toggle clamp. You can clamp, or here to uh, rotate and lower movement that is partially cam based, but a manual toggle clamp uses a 4-bar linkage to produce a high clamping force. So here you will be getting the high clamping force for that manual toggle clamp. And correct. Now this is about that manual toggle clamp, and the coupling connects two shaft or rotating member together that you have seen. And here the another term it is written, this is the repetition. The helical flexible coupling are commonly used to drive a shaft with a servo motor, AC or DC motor in an automated system. Another name of helical coupling is the beam coupling. Here you can see this is the helical coupling. It is a beam coupling, means this is one portion and this is another portion, and in these two portions the shaft are connected. Another type of coupling, sometimes it is called as the spider coupling or a Lovejoy coupling, has two metal tooth hubs and a elastomer inserted or a spider to reduce the vibration. The three parts fit together with a press fit. So this is another type of coupling, and already you may be knowing that what is the universal joint is also a, you can say that it is a coupling. And for lighter application, the bellow type couplings are sometimes used for non-aligned shaft. So these different type of coupling, I'll be sharing the YouTube link separately along with this video, and you can see that what are the different type of coupling. So this is one thing. Now let us see about the clutches and the brake. So these are the mechanical things. That's why I'm going slightly faster, because you all are maybe aware, because you all are the mechanical engineer. So a clutch allows two rotating elements to be engaged and disengaged with each other. That you already know, and most means it is used by you people, most of the people every day in the automobile. Or if you are working in a machine, there is again engagement and the disengagement of the gears, or the from the motor to the shaft, and this disengagement and engagement, quick engagement and disengagement, can be done with the help of clutch. The most common type of clutch is the friction clutch. With the friction, power can be transmitted. So there are several different type of friction clutch, including conical, radially expanding, contraction band, and the friction disc clutch. It is common for driving and the driven members of friction clutch to be held in contact with each other by the spring pressure. This is, you can say that in clutch there will be spring pressure, and with that that spring force will make the clutch to engage with the driving and the driven member. There is a, you can say that, power which is supplied from the motor to the one part of which is called as the driving, and the power which is given to the other part of the member, or you can say that other part of the machine is, or the driven mechanism is that you can say that power consumed. From driving to the driven, in between there is a clutch. So you, whenever you want to stop the machine, you can disengage the clutch, and already power is there in the, so no need to stop the motor frequently. Why it is so? What is the purpose of this one? If you are stopping and starting the motor frequently, what will happen? The motor will draw more power. To save that power, you need the clutch, and with that clutch, automatically there is a quick engagement and the disengagement without starting and stopping the the driving mechanism like motor or engine or anything else. Now the another thing is the brake. Brake are used to rapidly stop a rotating member, also using frictional method. On that you are aware again. And brake and clutch are used simultaneously. First you have to disengage with the help of clutch, and then you have to stop the driven mechanism with the help of brake. So typically brake uses a disc or pad to contact a rotating surface such as plates or something. In industrial application, most brakes are composed of semi-metallic, organic or the ceramic material. Like clutch, brakes may be actuated in a number of ways, including pneumatic and the hydraulic, electrical or mechanical method, like same as the clutch. The clutch also we are using that pneumatic or hydraulic or electrical or the mechanical method to disengage or engage. Similarly, to stop, brake can be used, and brake can be of pneumatic, hydraulic, electrical or to the mechanical. Now clutch brake combination is always used. Is a device that either engage a clutch to provide motion from rotating to the non-rotating member, or quickly bring the driven member to stop when the clutch is not engaged. So this clutch and brake in the automobile or you can say that vehicle you have seen. So clutch brake are used extensively in conveyor application and often in other servo and motor driven machinery. This is the industrial application of clutch brake engagement. So this is one thing. So this is about the clutch brake. Now comes out to be the last topic of this chapter is structure and frame. So here you can see that there are different type of structure and framing. The machines are often built with a welded or bolted steel frame as a base structure. Today, however, more and more machines are built of aluminum extrusion or pipe based structure. So there are also many small structure assembly components available from machine part vendor. So this is one thing. Now another is steel framing. Most steel frames are welded for rigidity and permanence. Steel tubing, flat stock and angle pieces are cut to length and generally using a jig clamp or the welded together fixture to ensure the alignment. Because steel rusts or oxidize, it usually has to be cleaned by grinding before being primed and painted. So that is one thing. If it is a steel, it can be rust, so that it is to be primed and painted before using. So this is for the steel framing. Pre-made welded steel bases can be purchased as standard product from the various manufacturers. These generally consist of welded tube steel base and a ground steel top plate for mounting component and adjustable feet and hole for bolting them to the floor. That is leveling feet. So here you can see that welded machine base. So this is the machine base and it is made up of steel. And here you can see it can be bolted along with the ground also along to the floor after leveling that leveling that you can bolt them together. So this becomes, and on this one the machine can be placed. So it is a pre-made welded steel base, right? Now frames may also be bolted together. This is often done for one of two reasons. One, the relative cost compared with the welded is much cheaper. Two, the ability to unbolt the frame later makes for easy transport or modification. If the components are to be mounted to a frame, a piece of steel is often welded to the frame to be machined to a specific thickness afterwards. This machine pad can then be ground and drilled and tapped for precise location of component or sub-assembly. During the welding and the machining process, the stress are induced into the welded frame. Prior to assembly, these stresses are often relieved by heating the frame in an oven or attach a strip relieving vibrator to the frame. That you are aware, it is a material, or you can say that metallurgy part. To relieve the stresses, what you have to do? You have to temper it, and that tempering can be done by heating the frame in an oven or attaching a stress relieving vibrator to the frame. So this way that surface stress can be relieved. So this is one thing. Now we'll stop here, and some portion of this one in that video, otherwise it will be longer. So some portion of this one will be covering in the next slide, otherwise I'll be giving you the PPT of the same. Thank you all.